You still feel that kiss?
I dream about her all the time.
The crime is so heinous. A gunman barges into the childhood home of gridiron great Kermit Alexander. Within minutes, Kermit's beloved mother, a sister, and 2 nephews are shot execution style. A younger brother and nephew miraculously survive. Cops don't have a suspect or a clue for a motive.
That's Damon, Ivan. These are the 2 that were killed with my mother. Neil hid Ivan in the closet and told him to stay there. Neil is the one that wrestled with Tycon.
Kermit was barely in possession of his senses when cops arrest an 18-year-old hitman for the notorious Crips gang. He had been identified by a palm print left on a trunk in the bedroom during a struggle with their brother Neil.
Neil is the reason that we were able to find out who it was. When we found the killer, we had the handprint that put him in the house. So there was no way he could escape. And it was Neil fighting with him that saved his life and got us the killer. If he doesn't wrestle with him, we never find out who it is.
But what chilled Kermit to the bone was that this soulless psychopath, Tyquan Cox, he had known as a kid, watched him play pee-wee football, a troubled 10-year-old, unable to rein in his rage on the field.
He noticed this one kid, and he had incredible skills, and he also had an explosive temper. Slap his teammates upside the head if they didn't block properly, threw the ball at the ref's feet, yelled at people on the sidelines, and Kermit said, "My God, that kid's a talent. That kid could be a star, but somebody's got to help him. Somebody do something." And Kermit said, everybody nodded their head, and nobody, including him, did a thing. And this sent Kermit into another spiral of guilt.
Incredibly, Kermit shoulders some of the blame.
I had seen a young man that was desperately in need of help, and I had ignored it. It's sad. It is not my fault, but as a community member, I have some responsibility for our children. I saw the need. I told people that he needed help. I showed people the kid that I'm talking about, but I didn't do anything. So I had to pay the price, and ultimately my family had to pay the price.
He hears his dead mother's voice ringing in his ears. "Kermit, why didn't you do something to help that boy?"
What happens when you neglect children, they try to grow up on their own, and they usually go with the strongest influence in their lives. This particular young man was enamored with the gang. He was a talented athlete, but he was incorrigible. He didn't like the rule. He didn't want to follow the rule. He wanted to do it his way. So eventually, he ended up in a gang.
Cops were still stumped for a motive to the murders. One theory was a fumbled robbery. Thing is, nothing had been taken from the home.
They thought it was a serial killer. They thought Kermit had something to do with it. They thought it was a family squabble. All of these were considered, and then just none of them added up.
That is until cops zeroed in on a murder-for-hire plot. A businessman had paid Tyquan to wipe out a woman who had been shot and paralyzed in his bar and was suing him for $2 million. Police say he wanted the lawsuit to go away. $3,000 changed hands with the Crips' best hitman to do the job, and it was Tyquan Cox. But Cox was illiterate, unable to read, and he got the address wrong.
The sad thing about it is, because of his illiteracy, he went to the wrong house. And the house that he went to was mine. And he destroyed my family.
That's right. The trigger-happy Cox had targeted the wrong home that was on the same block where Kermit's mom lived.
Hit the wrong house.
Hit the wrong house.
At his murder trial, Cox was convicted and sentenced to death. Prison guards say to this day that he is the most dangerous man on San Quentin's death row. A stone-cold killer who has never shown a whit of remorse.
When you knew the truth, how did you deal with that?
I've never been able to deal with it. I've had to learn to live with it.
Talk about what it feels like to have this tremendous amount of anger, rage, heartbreak, and guilt.
I don't know how I've lived through it except through prayer. The amount of responsibility I was raised to exhibit as a leader in my family, all the things that happened to him that I couldn't prevent, weighs on you daily.
What would you say to him?
I was in a position at one time to help him, and I noted that he needed help, but I didn't do anything. And I have to apologize to him for that.
Some people would say this man is responsible for the death of 4 of your family members. Why on earth would you be the person to say I'm sorry?
Because I'm part of the community he was raised in, and we're responsible for letting this kid get out of hand, and I'm part of that. And so when he ended up in my mother's kitchen, I'm equally responsible because I didn't do anything to avert that.
Kermit says he has forgiven the murderous trespasses of Taekwon Cox, but he still wants to see the state put Cox to death. Up next, keeping the faith, Kermit's fight to reinstate the California death penalty, and the redemption he finds in a little boy rescued out of the rubble of the Haiti earthquake.
Every single voice from my past was just screaming in my ears. His mother, Mediz, more than anything. Let's do this right this time. Let's save this boy. Let's not have another Taekwon Cox.